Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Mets Daily. I don't know if it's that happy after that annoying loss by the Mets on Thursday, which me and my guest, Anthony Rivera from the Subway to Shea podcast, are a little bit pissed off about. I think we're all in the same boat. We think this team is great. This team has the most wins of the National League, or right there atop the league. And just unfortunately, 3 of the losses to the Dodgers, all 3 should have been wins. I mean, the Mets should be 7-0 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Instead, they're 4-3. Now, here's the silver lining, everybody. If the Mets and Dodgers finish with the same record, the Mets win the tiebreaker and get home field. And if you look at the difference in home and road record, it's 2 games under on the road, 24-7 at home. Massive difference to get that 1 extra home game. This is Mets Daily. Subscribe to the channel. Smash that thumbs up on the video. Comment below how you feeling after the loss. Do you want to punch Brett Beatty in the face for not making a Little League throw? Are you mad? Are you okay? I think we came in saying, let's split the series. They did that. So in that sense, we're fine with it. Make sure to follow Anthony Rivera at Subway to Shea. What is it? Ant Rivera 7 on
Ant Rivera 86.
86, of course, like 1986. We'll change that to Ant Rivera 2025 when the Mets win the World Series this year. You'll change the username. Ant, welcome to Mets Daily. You've been on before this show.
No, this is my first.
Is this your first?
Yeah.
That's because you had a child, and I record when you're working usually. So welcome aboard.
It's great to be here. I mean, excited to do the show with you. A lot to talk about with the Mets, and you're either very happy with the way this team has been playing or very upset with how this series ended up. And like you said, the Mets could have took all 7 from the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, the other day you're up. Diaz not available, which I get. Anyone who says Diaz should go 3 straight days, it's not happening. This isn't September. It's not October. That's a game you were 3 outs away. Max Muncy hits a piss missile. You don't score an extra innings. Bing, bang, boom. You lose that game. Today, you get the big insurance run that you're clamoring for. They oddly walk Soto to get to Alonso, which is plaguing teams. I don't know why they keep doing it. Coming into the year, I said that's the only move to do. But since we've seen Pete Alonso be the best with run and scoring position this year, which is the polar opposite of last year, I didn't think that was a smart move. It backfired, but in the end, Reed Garrett puts too many runners on, and he's been incredible this season, but he does walk a bunch of guys. He walks the leadoff guy, a double, it's a 1-run game. And then let's just talk about the play home. Brett Beatty, I love that he took accountability for it after the game, but what are you doing in that situation with that throw? It was a folly floater, and he double clutched and threw it in the dirt.
I mean, I posted it on X probably about like an hour or 2 ago. It's like, I am nervous anytime these guys throw home, whether it's Brett Beatty or Pete Alonso. It seems to be a struggle with all these plays, and they're costly. They're very costly plays. You don't even mention, obviously what's going on with Francisco Alvarez and all the passed balls. That's driving me insane as well. Every loss in this season series against the Los Angeles Dodgers was heartbreaking, and they were losses that could have been avoided with a little bit of better play. You talk about the play as well with Brandon Nimmo in left field, where he loses the ball and it drops right next to him. That could have been avoided. And then the way they lost in extra innings as well at home. So the Mets really should have taken all 7 games against the Dodgers. And this is kind of a little bit of prep and a lot of studying that this Mets team's going to have to do, because if they are to go deep into October, there's probably a chance that they're going to face the Dodgers. And I'm pretty sure the Dodgers are as seasoned as they are going to the playoffs every year. They're going to be hard to beat, even with, and we know this for a fact, the Mets struggled against their bullpen in bullpen games. So, even if they don't have their starters, this is a tough team to play. So I'm glad that they won the season series and home field advantage and all that stuff that comes along with it. But once you get into the playoffs, it's a different animal. And I hope that the Mets are ready and Mendy has them ready, mentally, physically, and they can avoid these errors and mistakes that they're making, because the Dodgers do not capitalize on them. They always capitalize on the mistakes.
And both these series, especially this one, were cinema. I mean, this is cinema for June, and think about this in October, best of 7. Hey, if the Mets win 4 out of 7, you'll take it because it means you're going to the World Series. And I think we need this to be the NLCS, not the DS, because we want best of 7, not best of 5. But what's fascinating about this series with the injuries and stuff, there is a chance that all 8 starting pitchers you saw this week will not start a single game in October. Now, David Peterson maybe, Griffin Canning maybe, but your thought is that the Mets acquire a starter, and they're one of the starters. Then you have Manaea as one, Senga as a third, and, you may not need 4. Sometimes you use 3, and if there's a 4th, maybe it's Holmes, depending on the innings limit. Maybe it's Canning. Maybe it is Peterson as a Game 4 starter. But for the Dodgers, no shot at, assuming health, obviously, assuming everyone's healthy. The Dodgers 4 starters you're expecting to probably be Sasaki, Ohtani, Snell, and Glasnow, or Yamamoto. That's who I expect are going to be their 4 starters, assuming Ohtani comes back and pitches. So the Dodgers, I think we take this a lot more serious than the Dodgers. Here's the other side of this, Ann. This is the Dodgers lineup. And outside of the first inning, Tyler McGill's troubles, the Mets starting pitching dominated the Dodgers this series. They were in line to win today. Peterson had a good start, couple runs, but Blackburn, 5 shutout innings. McGill, 5 out of 6 innings were shutout innings.
Yeah.
And Griffin Canning, shutout innings, didn't give up a run. So remarkable job by the starting pitching. And if you want to be encouraged, you should be encouraged by how good these starters were. And we didn't even see the best Mets starters out there.
Let's even talk about David Peterson. I know he gave up 3 runs, but to strike out Shohei Ohtani 5 times in the at bats that he has had against him, especially that crucial at bat in what was it, the 7th inning today, that was big for him. And I know he doesn't get talked about enough about maybe being a postseason starter because he's very versatile. We saw last postseason how good he was coming out of the bullpen, but David Peterson has really become an important part of this pitching staff. And if they don't have a lefty outside of Jose Castillo, if they don't find one at the trade deadline, this might be a guy. And I don't know if Brooks Raley, what he's going to be if he comes back, but David Peterson is going to be so important to this team moving forward. And I'm glad to see him go toe-to-toe with this Dodgers lineup. Even though they scored 3 runs, he still bounced back. He didn't implode like we would see from like a Steven Matz pitchers of the past. He did his business. He took care of that Dodgers lineup, and I'm glad to have him part of this rotation.
Yeah, and you could see a Game 4 scenario where it's like 3 innings Canning, 3 innings Peterson, and they use both of them for short, and that's not a bad situation to have. Now, I don't think Blackburn, McGill, none of those guys sniff a start, and probably not even the bullpen. But I agree. We'll see. Listen, I expect Riley to come back and be good. Like, he's had a long while since the Tommy John. It's showtime, baby. Like, when he gets here sometime in July, I expect Brooks Raley to be the Brooks Raley that we saw before he got hurt. And the Mets need it because you're seeing without A.J. Minter what this bullpen is, and it's a little bit leaky at times. And when Edwin Diaz isn't available, it's extremely leaky. Despite Brazoban's numbers being good, despite Reed Garrett's numbers being good, it's a little bit shaky, and they very much, and I talked about this the other day, and I listed 8 to 10 relievers from some of these bad teams like the Athletics, the White Sox, the Orioles, Kyle Finnegan on the Nationals, pitchers that you're kind of targeting at the trade deadline. It's a Noah's Ark bullpen trade deadline. Like, you need one of everything. You need 2 relievers plus the return of a healthy Brooks Raley to kind of feel comfortable about this bullpen because you can't overuse Edwin Diaz too much. You use him back-to-back days a lot. That's his arm's going to get gassed. Today, I know some people said use 6 outs. You also need starters to go deeper. And in my opinion, I thought David Peterson at 91 pitches should have at least faced 1, maybe 2 batters in the 8th inning today. And that's going to be something to monitor here. And as you get deeper into the season, will he give a chance for these starters to go that, like Blackburn, you could have argued the other day, could have started off the 6th inning before you went to the bullpen. At some points, as we get deeper, we're almost at the halfway point. Carlos Mendoza is going to have to start considering going the extra mile with the starters because if not, this bullpen could be cooked come September.
And we've seen him do that in the past, right? We see him did that last season with like Jose Quintana. He gave him the extra inning, Luis Severino. He does it in certain spots. I wasn't as upset, and I know a lot of people on X were, that they took out Peterson at 91 pitches. If they were going to be having someone up and ready to go and he got the 1 batter and couldn't get him out, fine. 91 pitches. He was getting to the heart of the lineup. He just struck out Shohei Ohtani. I felt like that was the best way to get him out of the game with the confidence to move on to his next start, go to the bullpen. I think the bigger problem for me was allowing Reed Garrett, after all the troubles that he had in that inning, to pitch to Michael Conforto, of all people, to get the game-winning hit. When he had Waddell ready in the bullpen, they should have made the switch there, and they held on too long. So that's a problem, I think, that Mendy has sometimes, is he holds on too long with some of these people in the bullpen when he should take him out.
Well, I'll say this. I probably trust Reed Garrett over Brandon Waddell. So that's the issue, is this bullpen is, you're arguing to go to a minor leaguer. Castillo has somehow not given up an earned run in a Mets uniform, even though I'm not that comfortable with him. Like these are their options. Like losing Minter.
Yeah.
And listen, Danny Young's importance is being shown right now. Like in that spot, you would have easily went to Danny Young, but because you have a AAA pitcher essentially in Brandon Waddell, who's been fine but not great, that's why it's tougher. But you're probably right. He should have made the switch, but those leadoff walks will always come back to get you, and you can't overcome an error like what Brett Beatty made. And again with Alvarez, with the wild pitches, like I would have liked him to like block that ball and maybe recover, get it, and tag him. I know it would have been a lot to do in a short amount of time, but we got to see more from Alvarez, because I've been on the board of Alvarez as a starter. Torrens will get his starts. Don't switch yet, but I am as each day goes by, and this is a big topic on Mets Twitter, Mets IG, Mets TikTok, on my TikTok lives I do. It's a big topic is, should Luis Torrens be starting more than Francisco Alvarez at this point?
I think at this moment in time, at the very least, it should be a 50-50 split. If Francisco Alvarez is not going to provide you the offense that we've seen in the past from him,
he's got no power right now. He's a 20-homer guy who's hitting no homers.
Yeah, he has no power. Obviously, the 2 surgeries on his hand have affected him here. The only thing is when you're not hitting, you better be great on defense, and he's just not been. That's the problem. So many pass balls. You talk about the play with Beatty. He let a pass ball go by him a few seconds earlier. We're seeing too many of these pass balls become very important parts of the game, and that is a problem to me. And, maybe at some point, as we get to the All-Star break, if this continues, you would have to consider, I think, having to send him down, get his mind right, bring up Senger. The team was firing on all cylinders. Senger wasn't hitting, but he sure was providing some great defense and some great pitch recognition with these pitchers. So, it's very tough because I like Alvarez. I think he's a good dude. It's just that he is not producing in a lineup that needs more production. That's the problem. The lineup is not pretty. McNeil is struggling with runners in scoring position. Alvarez is. Mark Vientos is. Brett Beatty will come up with the occasional hit when you need it. He's starting to come back down to earth. Acuna hasn't gotten any big hits. And everything is relied on right now. Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and to a certain extent, Juan Soto, who we have really not seen the best of Juan Soto yet. So the Mets got to figure something out. If they're not going to get the offensive production from Francisco Alvarez and not the defense either, maybe it's time to bring up the defensive catcher and, save runs that way.
Well, you have to wonder, do you pull a Torrens of last year and go out and get another catcher? It's not something I've uttered the words, but like there's going to be a point if Alvarez isn't giving you enough, you got to consider looking into the catcher's market. There's got to be a catcher out there somewhere. You found a diamond in the rough in Luis Torrens. Like, do you go out there and get another catcher? Now, you're not going to carry 3 catchers on the roster, but I agree. At some point, Alvarez might have to go down. I don't know how it works with him in options and if they could even just simply send him down or not. I haven't looked into that because I
don't think they've ever sent him down.
Yeah. I would imagine you can send him down without having a DFA because in that case you wouldn't if you'd have to DFA him, but I'd imagine he has an option to go down. So that's going to be fascinating to watch. I think they like out and the other side of it is the pitchers like throwing Alvarez. You like his personality. They love him in the clubhouse. Yeah, we said that about Marte for a while. Luckily, Marte is getting hot now, despite that. I don't know what he's doing going off third base. I mean, I get it. He's running on contact if McNeil hits the ball, but unfortunately, McNeil's not hitting the ball enough. So maybe you shouldn't be running no matter what. I mean, sometimes he falls asleep. It looks like he fell asleep on that play, but got to give credit to Marte. He was on the Mendoza line. Now he's in 240. He's been hitting the piss out of the ball. So shout out to Starling Marte. Should have had 2 homers today. In some ballparks, that was the second homer. So shout out to him. But, yeah, I'm curious to see what happens here at catcher. Francisco Lindor, I tweeted and a lot of people said, you're dumb. It's just a toe injury. I said put him on the IL for 10 days, give him a rest. He just won't do that. And I understand the reality is he wanted to be in the lineup today, let alone be out for 10 days. You're playing the bum-ass Rockies this weekend. Send him on a plane to D.C. and we'll see you, hitting leadoff on Tuesday. And in my opinion, why even put him out there in Colorado this weekend? I don't know if he could get more hurt. You got a broken toe, but 5 days of treatment, not being on your feet, not being out there at shortstop. Maybe he's a DH on Sunday, but I just think giving him that extra day with that day off Monday as well makes more sense than playing him against. I know the Rockies are hot. They've won a couple games here, but playing him against one of the worst teams in the history of baseball.
Yeah, I'm resting him the entire weekend. The thing that sucks is now you're down a bat in the lineup that's already struggling. Um, and the fact that he's hurt right now, if you put him on IL, you lose him for what, 10 days, and that's even tough there. Play Acuna at shortstop, get Ronnie Mauricio. I heard Mendy say he's gonna get some time playing, getting some reps when they're practicing. So he might get some
Ronnie's played
time in there.
300 games in the minor leagues at shortstop. Like, I'd put him in the lineup at short tomorrow with Acuna struggles at the plate.
Yeah, and have Acuna play second. I want the defense out there, most importantly, and his speed. You got Mauricio playing shortstop, Beatty at third, and it sucks that this happened to Beatty because he's been so good defensively this year, and I still have faith that he could play a good defense. You have these guys, or the whole core is the from the minor leagues, and you include Pete Alonso as well. It's their whole homegrown team, so let them play. Let this guy get some rest in Lindor, and we'll see where we go from there. But man, it sucks not to have him in this lineup. You actually hope that the rest of the lineup wakes up in Colorado where they should be hitting. But we've known in the past that it doesn't matter. Colorado, whether they're good or bad, kind of has been a little bit of a house of horrors for this Mets team. So, I wouldn't be shocked. They just, I think, what did they sweep the Marlins?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be shocked them coming in hot and taking a game here. But with Lindor, you rest him this weekend. And maybe if he wants to make a pinch hit in a big spot, sure, but he needs the rest. Look, Mookie Betts is playing with a broken foot as well, or a broken toe. So
Yeah, the Marlins had to pay fans to see Rockies Marlins. They actually had to pay people to come in the building, and no one would take the free ticket. So that was a brutal series. Yeah, the Rockies swept the Marlins. So hopefully it's not horrific this week. And Brandon Nimmo doing what Francisco Lindor does out of the leadoff spot, hitting a homer. Brandon Nimmo, I mentioned on here, he was my X factor coming into the season. His on base can't be below 300, and I know he's homering. I know he's driving in runs. But you can't be a sub 300 on base guy when your whole career you've been known for your walks and running to first base on your walks. You're a 360 on base guy that has a 290 on base like that. And I get it. His average is low, but he was like really a guy that I looked at his on base. Like Juan Soto's a guy you look at his on base. Brandon Nimmo's a guy you look at their on base. Some guys you don't worry about the on base. You just hope their power is enough. But he is a big conundrum out there, and obviously we talked about the play the other day. Probably should have made that play on the Freeman ball that won the game. It was up against the wall in the lights, tough play. I'll give him a break on that, but I got to see him get on more. But we'll see about this weekend. Ronnie Mauricio, like I said, like over 350 games in the minors. He started 2 in St. Louis. He had short this year in his rehab this year, so he's played it recently. He can play shortstop, and he can play it decent enough that I'd like to see him out there this weekend. And for the people, stop writing off Ronnie Mauricio because he didn't get a hit in the 2 games. This is his first 2 big league games back. I still love his swing. He's clearly better and more comfortable from the left side of the plate. Perfect time to get him out there. Antonio Santella tomorrow, Friday night. I mean, one of the worst pitchers on the planet. I would guarantee you Ronnie Mauricio hits a homer against this guy. Like, this guy gives up homers left and right. I want to see him at short. Acuna, I'm Acuna Matata. It means no worries for the rest of Mets days, but, it is kind of alarming that he is not driving the ball. He has 0 homers. He had 3 homers in 2 weeks to end last year. I don't know if maybe it was September and facing pitchers that were tired and maybe some bad pitching. I don't know what it was, Ant, but something's changed. And, I get the comments on my TikTok lives a lot of, Jake, he still hasn't homered. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Any concern with that / the fact that he's not really hitting much in general from that couple of week stretch he had where he was hot?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm concerned. I feel like we all saw this coming. Like they said he was going to come back down to earth. He hasn't gotten a lot of time in AAA. The home runs last year, it was all about not knowing who he was, and they finally figured out how to pitch to him. He's not a home run type of player. Let's get this. He's not Ronald Acuna. All right, he's not his brother. So we'll get that out of the way. I don't know if I'm as concerned about him, but his offense comes to light because the rest of the offense isn't doing anything. So you're expecting this kid to come up in big spots when it should be Jeff McNeil who's coming through. At this point in time, it should be Francisco Alvarez and Mark Vientos coming through for the bottom of the lineup. It's been over the past 2 weeks, it's been, or maybe month, the hottest batters on this team: Luis Torrens, Tyrone Taylor, and Brett Beatty. You can't have that. And now Pete's getting hot again too because he loves playing in Los Angeles. But you have to have the big guys. And you talk about Brandon Nimmo. I don't know if he just changed his approach once they started moving him around the order. I don't know why he decided to do that, but Francisco Lindor in the leadoff spot is better than Brandon Nimmo at his best in the leadoff spot. So I'm not moving Francisco Lindor. He's got to figure this out because we have 5-6 more years of this from Brandon Nimmo. He doesn't have a good arm. He's not playing center field anymore because that's why we originally signed him. And I don't know. He's not getting on base. Every so often he'll have a big game. His season is based around that one big game he had in Washington where he had 9 RBIs.
Yeah, it's really tough because he is a likable guy, and I think that we've
course.
used that with him. He's one of these Mets
love
that
Brandon.
you love him, but it's also like, bruh, like he's one of those contracts that if it was Wilpon era, you regret it. Cohen, it's like, oh, whatever, we could pay $20 million a year, but it's a Wilpon era contract. Wilpons would be like, this is the worst contract ever, and obviously different ownership, different GM. This contract was pre-Stearns, correct? So I believe,
yes,
pre-Stearns.
Epler.
Yeah, Stearns would have never done that contract for Nimmo, and I get it. He's likable. He was having good numbers, but curious to see in the 2-hole, can he get that on base up because he is a key factor. And I do love that he's stealing bases. Stole a couple bases this series. I've said that year after year. Can I see Brandon Nimmo steal? I wasn't sure he would do it, the plantar fasciitis and his foot issues, but him stealing bases could be a massive difference for this team, and I want to see that. Anthony Rivera with us here on the Mets Daily Show, at Mets Daily Show on Twitter, at Jake Brown Radio. Smash that thumbs up in this video. Again, join the Mets Daily Insider family, $4.99 a month. It's cheaper than a large cup of coffee at any place in New York. You're not getting a good coffee, for under $5. So become a member, get exclusive extra video, a watch party each week, and monthly giveaways will begin once we have enough members that we're not giving away 1 out of 4 people. We're giving away free stuff. So join the family, $5 a month. I appreciate it. Just click join below and subscribe to Anthony Rivera's podcast, Subway to Shea, wherever you get podcasts, or on YouTube. A couple more minutes here on a happy Friday, June 6th, D-Day, right? Isn't June 6th D-Day? Is that right?
I don't.
We weren't good at history. We were good at sports, but not history. I believe it's D-Day, so shout out to that. Shout out to the Twitter war going on with a couple of notable names that broke Twitter. We don't do politics on here, but pull out the popcorn. This is like Drake and Meek Mill going at it. It's incredible. 2 pretty bad people just attacking each other, but it's fun to watch. Anyway, we don't do politics. We don't want to get anyone mad here, and they won't join the Mets Daily Insider family if we start talking politics. But we need a sweep this weekend, and you're facing bad pitching again in Colorado, so I expect a sweep. Senga, it's unfortunate Senga didn't get the Dodgers. Like, you wanted your best against the Dodgers, but they didn't show their best, so maybe it's better. Senga gets another start versus the Rockies to improve with that 1.6 ERA versus Sanzatella on Friday. We only got one more 10 p.m. game against San Diego, or is it San Fran in July, I believe. And then Holmes, Palmquist on Saturday, and then on Sunday afternoon it is Marquez versus McGill. So 3 terrible pitchers. Mets should be able to sweep. I want to close out the show today, and with the announcement of the Mets Alumni Classic game on September 13th. I went to Old Timers Day when I was with the Post. I was credentialed. We got on the field. I was down there with all my heroes, from Doc to Piazza to Wright. It was awesome. I don't know why they changed the name. I don't know. Is Old Timers Day considered like offensive now? Is it like when disabled list became the injured list? Why did they change the name here?
Someone mentioned on X that it was just a fan too. I don't know, put any credence to this, but they're like, it represents the Yankees. And you know what? I'm fine with it. Alumni game. I'm fine with that. Or
It
was it
makes you
Alumni
think like you're,
Classic?
yeah, it makes you feel like you're like the kickball in the backyard with your high school. Like it's the Trumbull High School Golden Eagles reunion alumni game. It's like
Yeah.
it kind of makes them feel like regular folk like us. Like, amazing day. Everyone, all the players were walking around the levels, and the suite level was awesome for the fans. Great experience. It almost feels like they're gonna walk throughout the seats and like. Glendon Rush is going to be sitting in section 121, row 7, next to me and you having a box of popcorn. That's what I would love to see them do. Have these guys during the game go out and watch. Now, security reasons, they probably won't do that. They'll probably be in the suites, and maybe I'll find them there. But I would love to see them out in the field, too, because you're going to call it alumni game. Make them feel like alumni. Make them feel like the average folk. But this is going to be fun, man. This is Old Timers Day was awesome. This will be great. The managers, Terry Collins, Jerry Manuel, Willie Randolph, Bobby V.
Jerry Manuel. I'm so surprised they wrote Jerry Manuel.
Yeah.
But, Terry Collins was the manager for most of Citi Field.
Well, think about it. They're not bringing Mickey Callaway.
No.
They're not bringing Luis Rojas. They're not bringing back Art Howe. So really,
that would be Shea Stadium.
I'm trying to think what other managers should. I guess Hojo. He's the one that's not going to be there. So that's the other one. But
I thought I read it's Team Shea Stadium versus Team Citi Field. So that's why Jerry Manuel and Terry Collins, and then it's Willie Randolph, Bobby V.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm seeing that now. Yeah. So it is the guys who played at Shea versus the guys that played at City. Looks like the one who played at both on this list is Carlos Delgado and Billy Wagner.
I think Johan Santana too. He's going to be in there.
Johan's
Beltran.
on Team City Field. Yeah, I got the Plawecki and Tolley are the catchers of the City Field. LaDuca versus Piazza. So catchers, Shea has the advantage. Outfielders for Shea: Agbayani, Beltran, Chavez, Floyd against City Field. Mike Baxter, Kirk Neuenhuis, Juan Lagares, Curtis Granderson. Okay, so catchers and outfield, Shea is going to blow the doors off of Citi Field. Managers, Shea probably wins too. Randolph and Valentine versus Collins and Manuel.
I'm just happy Ray Ordonez is there. That was my favorite player for such a long time. I always loved Rayo at shortstop, and I'm glad to see that he's going to be a part of this. I don't think he was at the last one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Who played very well in the last one? Mookie Wilson. Like, he had a big hit in the last game.
Well,
I think
Mookie's
he was like
got his
MVP.
catering company, so he's cooking every day. He's behind the grill, but it's not even close when you look at Shea City. Just the whole. I'm looking at the whole thing now, and like even infielders. Listen to this: Ike Davis, Kelly Johnson, Josh Satin, Ruben Tejada, Asdrubal Cabrera are the Citi Field. And I hope they extend. I think this roster could get better. It does say subject to change. So this roster is going to get better because Citi Field is just getting destroyed. Like they're going to have to
They're just younger.
I mean, they're going to have to put some of the current Mets out there to help this Citi Field roster versus Fonzie, Delgado, Reyes, Ventura, Zeal. I mean, that's Mets Hall of Famers. Like that's Mets fan favorites on the Shea Stadium infield. And then, the outfield again, fan favorites. Agbayani, fan favorite. Beltran was great. Beltran's a legend. Endy, a fan favorite.
He looks like he could still play.
Yeah, and Beltran, he's fashionable too. I was in the suite with him last year and smells great. Whatever cologne you're using, Carlos Beltran. I told him I need that shirt he had. It was a very Jake Brown-esque shirt that he had on, but it was like a Latino version of me. So shout out to Carlos Beltran.
Is this Carlos Delgado's first time back?
It feels like it, right?
Yeah. I don't think he's been back since 2009, 2010, or whenever it was that he got injured and then was retired.
Here's the thing. The Mets are the team in town. The Mets are the game. I mean, they're selling out. The second biggest crowd of the season was a Sunday against the Rockies. This is the cinema. This is the movie. This is the grand opening. Mets are the show. And I know Yankee fans don't want to hear that, but their attendance growth is off the charts, one of the best in baseball. They're getting every weekend is a sellout. Every weekday is 37,000. Their average capacity is about 90% full at the very least every night. And that includes players. Guys are showing up that weren't there before, and the Mets are writing checks to get those guys there. And some of those guys are like, hey, can I get tickets? I'm sure some players are getting left out because not enough suites to put them in. So this is the team in town, and that's why I think we're excited about this team. We're excited about doing our shows about this team, despite losses that, we get mad about losses today because we know the potential of this bunch. And it's going to be a fun summer, man, because the trade deadline, you only expect this team to get better. And last year they had a little sprinkle, got a couple pieces. I expect this team to go all in and go out and try and get the best reliever, try and get the best starter on the market, and try to win a championship this year, because I know this wasn't the Dodgers' full team, but the Mets could win the whole damn thing.
For me, I feel the opposite. I feel like they are not going to make a big move unless they're trading someone that's on this already lineup, or because the rotation is kind of full right now, right? Unless you're getting an ace, like who's it? Sandy Alcantara, like is that who we're getting? Or and
I mean, he's been
he's not
terrible,
having a
so
great
I
year.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where they go there. I think the best thing is probably a relief pitcher, a left-handed relief pitcher. I know Jeff Passan posted, what was it, yesterday in his article, that the Mets should go after Cedric Mullins for the outfield. That would be interesting, because this lineup needs needs a lot of perking up right now, because the bottom of the order is very frustrating to watch. You got too many kids down there that don't know what's going on, and then you have Jeff McNeil, who's a shell of himself. Or he really isn't the same Jeff McNeil. He's not gonna get a squibbler hit here. He had the bases loaded. He's popping out on the first pitch. He's striking out, swinging like a golfer. It's frustrating. So if they could bring in a bat, would be nice. But I don't, until I see David Stearns and this team make that big move. I'll have to believe it when I see it, sort of thing. So I'm trying to be, cautiously optimistic with how they handle this trade deadline.
Yeah, and when I say all in, I don't mean Paul Skeens, but I do mean an elite reliever or two. I think they need two relievers, whether it's a righty, a lefty, two lefties. Probably one of them's got to be a lefty, unless Raley comes back before the deadline. It looks great. Two relievers and a bat. And I think Cedric Mullins is a big enough bat that'll help this lineup. And you're starting to see, like, when McNeil's struggling and when Acuna might be struggling, you're like, you really couldn't just pick up Iglesias for $4 million? Like, I think not signing Iglesias.
But he's struggling too, isn't he not?
Yeah, he's been up and down, but still defensively, he's a wizard. I don't know. I'm over that, but I'm just saying that there's a point here, like you said, that August, September. I don't want to see Jeff McNeil in the lineup in October. That's what I'm saying here. And I'm hoping Ronnie Mauricio can prove himself. I'm hoping Mark Vientos comes back from the hamstring and is a new man and starts hitting again, because Vientos of the playoffs last year, mixed with maybe Ronnie Mauricio's pop, could be what invigorates this lineup. But one more bat, two elite relievers. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
And you say the starters are full. I think at some point McGill gets sent down. I think at some point Blackburn might get DFA'd. So there's always going to be a spot, and we don't know with injuries. Like, knock on wood here, but there's going to be injuries. There's going to be a starter that gets hurt. You hope it doesn't happen, but it's just the inevitable with the New York Mets that it's going to happen. So we'll address starter come July. We'll see where they're at, because we haven't even seen Manair. Montes could end up hurting his lat in the first start. I mean, he hurt himself the first time in spring, and I don't know how much we're expecting out of him. And Manair, we got to see healthy. So we'll address starter come mid-July, but in terms of what they need now and for the rest of the year, it is one or two relievers and an outfielder. This is Mets Daily. Subscribe, smash that thumbs up. Follow me at Jake Brown Radio. Follow me at Ant Rivera 86. Subscribe to Subway to Shea. Become a Mets Daily Insider for $5 a month. Just click join below. We appreciate it. Ant, great to have you on the show today for the first time. We could talk for hours. I feel like we got more stuff we could talk about, but I think we covered everything. I'm glad we talked about this alumni game, because that's, that and the David Wright ceremony, July 19th, are the two games, and Subway Series, of course.
Yeah.
3 games. Those are the 3 must-go-tos. If you're like an out-of-towner, which is me now in fucking South Jersey, I'm an out-of-towner. I'm a tourist. I walk around. You know how hard it is getting the suitcase under the train rolling? I have to push it forward, hope that no one robs it. I've gotten stuck like 7 times trying to take a train with a big-ass suitcase. Now I know how these tourists feel wheeling around suitcases around Times Square. I'm one of them. I'm about to get Auntie Ant's pretzels with Johnny from Sweden. It's unbelievable. But hopefully by September, October, we're back in New York. Thank you for joining and putting up with my ridiculous tangent.
No, I appreciate you for having me on. I will be at the David Wright game for sure. I got those tickets in advance. Now I got to get this alumni ticket. Now, before we go, one last question for you. If I told you in 2015 that Matt Harvey and Noah Syndergaard would be at the alumni game in 2025, would you have believed it?
In terms of, I thought their careers would still be going, right?
Yeah.
Yes, because I know how hard both of them partied and how many times at least one of them's nose would bleed. If you know what I mean. Yes, I would believe that they'd be at the alumni game, because when you party like they did, when you bang the chicks like they did for every night after night. Sorry to get graphic here on Mets Daily, but just keeping it real with you. I know what these guys did in their lives off the field, and 10 years later, yes, but it is sad. I mean, it's cool for us. We get to see them again, but it is sad because you thought maybe 10 years ago, hey, they would be in the real game on September 13th, not the game that they're sitting in Section 107 with me and you with Glendon Rush. But yeah, isn't it interesting? But it's fun. It's the fun of being a Met fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fun times in Mets land. Mets Rockies this weekend. Enjoy the series. Let's sweep. We'll be back here on Monday. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Subway to Shea. Subscribe to Mets Daily. Enjoy the series. Let's go Mets. You got to believe they got the tiebreaker over the Dodgers. That's what's important here, despite the anger Thursday provided you. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching Mets Daily.